As I was saying, I apologize. This is part 2 of this study guide slash quiz or test coverage. We're looking at 2.3 meters into centimeters. At this point here, we've talked about the 200, the 300, so 2.3 being right in the middle. Well, that's 230 centimeters. Sweet. All right. Let's scroll on down to the last bit of the test here. So, excuse me. Last two questions are about formalities in science. Yes, having all the necessary information there is appreciated, but it should be noted that there's a certain format that things should be in. At the middle school level, do we need to be super hardcore about this? Probably not. You know, as long as all the kids have all the parts to the experiment or the scientific method, that's fine. But I will tell you, as you get older, as you move through high school, college, into businesses, there's going to be plenty of forms that you have to fill out that follow a certain protocol, certain order. Can't skip it, can't mess it up. If you do it again. Sorry, you're fired. Try again. All these possibility things could happen. So, for the scientific method, I know a lot of you have already kind of noticed this. I've got a picture here of Mr. Sheldon. And no, this is not the guy from the Big Bang Theory. That I came up with this name and this approach well before that TV show existed. So, here's the deal. Some, really, hip, egg, ran, cockeyed, repeatedly. Repeatedly. Thank you. So if we use this mnemonic device to remember the scientific method, we'll actually do pretty good here. So, first up, some. State the problem. C. Really, well, after you do the problem, you probably better learn about the material, so you probably should do some research. A. Hip. Well, if you're hip, you're probably coming up with a hypothesis at this point, so that's a D. C-A-D. Egg. Well, we got an educated estimation as to what's going to happen, so we probably should test it. Let's make an experiment. G. We are then going to, the egg ran, so we're going to take our experiment and we're going to look at our results. F. And now we've got our results. Well, the cockeyed leads us to the conclusion. We're going to go and explain our results with the original problem. And then in all things science, the best experiments, the best labs, the best questions and problems can always be repeated. And so there we have repeatedly, repeat, E. Alright, that takes care of our scientific method. Our last item here has to do with the correct order of, alright, so this last item here has to do with the lab report and the order to which it should be written. I don't have any silly acronyms to kind of help us on this. Maybe I could come up with one. But the lab report, going to have to remember the basic aspects of the lab report. First things first should be your heading. And so that is I. Ironically enough, my letters continued on. So we have I for heading, and also remember in your heading, it should all be in caps and larger. Alright, good. After our heading, we should have our introductory statements, but our introduction actually talks about all the information pertaining to the lab. If I was reading a lab report, I'd want to know what the lab report's about. And so an abstract actually gives us that. An abstract is a summary. So, L for abstract. Now we start dealing with the nuts and bolts of the lab. We need to know the materials supporting it. K, introduction. Good job. After an introduction, well, you could start by telling us what you did, what your materials and methods are. Here we go. J, M&Ms. So, we have our heading, our abstract, our introduction, our materials and methods. In the materials and methods, when you're listing all the steps and all the experimenting that you did, it's now time to discuss your data, your results. So, M. Now, with the results done, we need to go and give a declarative statement, a conclusion. We need to have our discussion. And there we have our H, discussion. And last but not least, you always want to reference any of the information that you used, whether it be the research, looking at other people's findings, anything of that nature. You always want to make sure you include your references. So, here we go. All said and done. There's your order for your lab report. And now we've just gone over the topics that you'll find on the final test here in Team 71 Science. Have a great night, folks.